Welcome into Good Morning KU. It's Casual Monday apparently here at Media Crossroads. Full weekend of KU sports as usual. Cross country making the national tournament for the first time since 1994. Plus football, they were in action unfortunately. Volleyball bouncing back after Texas. Women's basketball, men's basketball, both starting their seasons. It was a packed weekend and we've got it all for you right here on Good Morning KU. Welcome back into Good Morning KU. Griffin Hughes here with Nick Cousin, and apparently you didn't get the memo for Casual Mondays. Or maybe I just didn't get the memo for the nice-looking Mondays. We'll see. We'll see later on. Let's start with women's basketball. The Coach Brandon Schneider era officially kicking off here in Lawrence, replacing Bonnie Henriksen as they took on Texas Southern, a team that's really, really solid as far as women's basketball goes. We got some B-roll here for you.
SWAC regular season champions last year would have been an automatic bid to the postseason, but they got in a fight in the championship game of the SWAC conference championship, so they were not allowed. But they kept KU in a pretty good game all the way until the end.
Absolutely, and really obviously the thing that stood out was Lauren Aldridge. She always stands out. But the other really big standout player was Tyler Johnson, the way that she guarded Kadisha Vine down low. She's 6'4", senior for Texas Southern, and Tyler Johnson, the freshman, came in and did a tremendous job.
Made her more ineffective in that first half, really. Vines didn't come on the scene until later in the fourth quarter when Texas Southern went on that run, but very impressive performance by Tyler Jones, the McDonald's All-American, the local product from Leavenworth.
As you see in the video here, Kylie Kopatich, the freshman who had a really, really great exhibition season, she struggled. And she struggled to make shots and really find some, but she came up big late. What was the turnaround for her?
Well, late in the game, she had that three-pointer, and she just kept on trying to hit that shot all game long, and that's where she hits it. She goes for that three, and it doesn't go in all the time, but when she did make it, it was big in the game.
For Kansas, the key was shutting down Jasmine Parker for Texas Southern. A game-high 25 points, but she scored 34 her last time out in Allen Fieldhouse, and you figure, that difference was the game right there. Mm-hmm. And what was the key for Lauren Aldridge shutting down Parker?
I think it was just but she didn't really face off with Parker until the fourth quarter. That wasn't really a defensive matchup that was important. She wasn't guarding her all the time. So later on in the game, I think it was a little bit too late at that point, because really the third quarter is where Texas Southern started to emerge on the scene, and that's when Parker got all those points.
Let's move to cross country, the women's team making the NCAA Nationals for the first time since 1994. I wasn't even born yet. The last time they made cross-country nationals, and it was on the legs of freshman Sharon Lokiti. What an amazing performance from her.
Yeah, she definitely put the team on her back. She finished in third in the regionals on Friday, and also qualified the entire team to get to nationals this upcoming weekend in Louisville, and that was pretty impressive. And also Lydia Sagao, she finished in 24th place, so she was able to get into the nationals as well. If you finish in the top 25 places, you're able to get to there. And then on the men's side, Evan Landis, finishing in 8th place, he was also able to qualify, but the only guy on the men's side to do that.
Right, the men's team didn't have as great an outing as they probably hoped for, but the women's team at least representing Kansas in Louisville this weekend on Saturday. They'll see Oklahoma State again, who made the regionals, or the nationals, I should say, on both sides, men's and women's.
And they took first place on both sides in the regionals and Big 12, so very impressive cross-country.
They have dominated cross-country basically forever. At least in the last 10 years, they've been unbeatable.
As long as I know of cross-country, Oklahoma State's been up top.
Let's move to volleyball, another team that's enjoyed lots of success. They got taken to 5 sets by the Texas Longhorns. They came back, quick turnaround, played TCU on Saturday. And remember, when Texas beat Kansas in Austin, they turned around and played TCU and lost. They got swept by the Horned Frogs, but Kansas really didn't even struggle here against TCU.
You saw Cassie Wade. She had a rare double-double as a libero, 10 assists and 21 digs. First time she hit over 20 digs this season in a game. Also, Nisa Havili doing Nisa Havili things, 44 assists, and Kelsey Payne also career high in kills with 21.
Just an
an all-around amazing performance.
That front court did a great job, and you see there's a lot. They blocked really well, which I think was the one thing that Kansas has really been missing all year. I mean, obviously you have a three-headed monster getting kills up there with Rigdon, Kelsey Payne, and Tiana Dockery, but the problem has been blocks. Really only Taylor Susie has done a good job with that this year, but in this match, everybody did a really good job with that. What do you think was the key for them?
Well, obviously, like you said, blocking is something that they need to do, and if they do something you don't do well, then you obviously are going to do well. But I think it was the play of Cassie Wade. She's really the leader of this team, and when you can put you can put a lot of assists up there, because that's what Issa Lily does, then that's going to help you as well.
Yeah, the depth in the assists is certainly key, especially if Abili doesn't find herself underneath the ball when it comes to that second hit. Cassie Wade played really well. This has been a team that has excelled all year, and we're starting to see that now, just beating down on a team that beat Texas. They swept Texas the last time they played. So
it's a good win in the long run.
Outlook looks bright for Kansas. They probably won't win the Big 12 because of Texas, but it still looks pretty good.
And they competed with Texas in 5 sets, so that shows that they can compete with anybody, really.
Absolutely. Let's mention tennis here. Anastasia Rajchigova, she continued the season, even though for the rest of the Jayhawks it was done. She went to New York to play in the ITA Nationals, lost both of her matches, but hey, at least she's there, right?
And at least she got to the third round before she lost too, but she played a very impressive opponent from UCLA, and UCLA is great at tennis, and you know that.
Right. I mean, well, the girl she played wasn't even UCLA's best player. So it kind of shows that Kansas is a little bit behind in terms of the really powerful tennis schools. But at least Rajchigova's there.
And they're getting there.
They're getting up there.
So.
Rajchigova is a key for them to continue to get better. Let's move to men's basketball. People want to hear about men's basketball. They beat down on Northern Colorado. Nothing special really happened in this game.
Hit 100 points.
I mean, what else would you expect from, against Northern Colorado? Like, you have to beat some better opponents to get some respect.
And we will see that on Tuesday when they play Michigan State. They'll play a quality opponent there. But what was really impressed me, Brennan Green was the highest total point with 18, and then also we saw Devontae Graham play well at that 2 position with 9 assists. Also, Frank Mason, we usually don't see him do a lot of dishing, but he had 9 assists as well.
Yeah, well, I think that 3 guard is one of the smartest things Bill Self has ever done, and it's really annoyed me about him that he hasn't gone out and recruited a true point guard, something like a Lauren Aldridge that now Brendan Schneider has on the other side. But we'll see if Devontae Graham kind of step into that role and play well. And Frank Mason, if he's not expected to run the offense, I think that was the issue with him. Not that his passing was a problem, and it's not great, but it's all right. But the fact that he couldn't run an offense, he can't run a pick and roll. He is incapable of running a pick and roll offense, and Devontae Graham can do that. So I think that was really the key. We'll have to see what happens against Michigan State, a team where that's going to be absolutely essential for a win.
They're definitely going to be tested in that one. You're not going to get tested against Northern Colorado.
All right. Well, I hate to finish with football, but I guess we kind of have to. We left it for last.
Hey, they almost won.
You know what? If your claim to fame for the season is they almost won against TCU,
it was
because Trevon Boykin got injured in the first quarter.
That was the game plan, I think. Coach Beatty said, go for the legs of Trevon Boykin.
Boykin goes out, backup comes in, backup struggles. Kansas nearly takes the lead. Third string comes in and pulls away. So Kansas still has yet to win a game coming into West Virginia and Kansas State. They're going 0-12.
If they didn't miss any tackles on those long touchdowns by TCU, they probably would have won.
That's true. Although that one long touchdown up the middle by what was his name, Aaron, and he just Goodman just kind of slid off of his back as he was. That's a big boy right there.
And surprisingly, we saw Jordan E miss a big tackle. He had 11. So,
yep, and Fish Smith's in a lot of tackles. Leader in solo tackles.
In solo tackles, that's crazy.
Because no one else on that defense can tackle. It's basically just Smithson.
Yeah, he's really the one veteran on that defense. So
he really is.
I expect him to know how to tackle.
It's a defense that's always effective, right? So football this Saturday takes on West Virginia, probably their best chance to win a game for their last 2 this year. Coming up, we have Skylar Rolstad to break down the beginning of the women's basketball season and going forward what the outlook might be. So stick around. This is Good Morning KU.
When you shop local in the heart of the city, you support the people that make our community thrive. The money you spend here stays here, in this place we call our home. Lawrence, Kansas, where there's good old-fashioned hometown pride. Eat local, drink local, shop local.
Welcome back in. Good morning, KU. Griffin Hughes here, and joining me is Skylar Rolstad. And Skylar, you've been on the show before, but it's talking soccer, wearing many different hats here for us. Because today you're going to talk some women's basketball, which you also write for the University Daily Kansan. Let's first start with your thoughts on this Sunday's game against Texas Southern.
This Sunday's game against Texas Southern, I'll say that it was a really exciting game, and I was surprised that Brandon Schneider saw a positive in giving up a 20-9 run in the third quarter, and giving up a 15-point lead to pretty much just scrape out of that with a win. And so it was a close game, and I think I was a little bit surprised that it was so close.
What do you think made it that close? Was it just Jasmine Parker, or what was it about Kansas that let Texas Southern claw their way back into the game?
I think it was just that in that amount of time, Texas Southern quit making mistakes. But Kansas just didn't really blow them out, so to speak, on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where that came from.
Do you think this is going to be a team that has to blow teams out on the offensive end, or defensively? Aldridge came in fourth quarter and did a great job against Jasmine Parker. Is that the identity of the team? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, what do you think the identity of this team actually is going to be later on in the season?
It just depends on how the scoring is going to be shared. It depends who can hit threes. And Brandon Schneider talked about before the season, converting some players to three-point shooters and getting more diversity in where you can get your shots. And I think that the identity of this team is definitely a defensive team. It's a team that can really rely on getting stops.
Well, Coach Brandon Schneider talked before the year about Shayla Cheadle. She had a really successful freshman campaign, and someone asked him who's going to be the number one scorer of this team, and he said, well, Shayla can come and be that 15 to 20 point scorer. We haven't seen that early this season. Is it just a slump for her, or is this really an issue that maybe she can't be that number one scorer?
I just don't think that in this first game it was really a priority to get her the ball. I think it was all Lauren Aldridge for most of the time.
And you know what? That's not a bad thing. Let's talk a little bit about Aldridge, because the way that she's developed, coming from where she was a two-star recruit coming out of high school for Coach Bonnie Henriksen. She started every game last season. She started every game this season. She'll probably start every game until the rest of her career unless she gets hurt. So what was most impressive to me about her was that a great point guard can run the offense and share the ball and do a little bit of the scoring, but when the team needed her, she came up big, and she had a pull-up three that got them the lead after Texas Southern and KU were kind of trading. They were trading off leads there early in the fourth quarter. She had some key layups, and she got to the line a couple times. She ended up having a career-high 18 points. How impressive was she to you?
She was the best player on the floor that time. She is. You talk about getting the ball to other players and getting different shots and getting players to take different shots, and she's a really good player to have on your team for that, because she can really provide for her teammates. And with 7 assists in that game, it was over double any other player on the floor. So yeah, she is extremely valuable for this team.
If you had to pick one player who will support her offensively, adding maybe 15 to 20 points along with her, who would you say that player has to be?
I'd probably say Kayla Manning-Allen. She's physically the most dominating player on the team, and as a junior, she's one of the oldest. So she's definitely one of the leaders on this team offensively.
I would agree. This will be an interesting team to see how it all shakes out. It's one of the youngest in the country, not a single senior on this squad. And Kaylin Manning-Allen, a junior, like you said, one of the oldest players on the team. So we'll just see where they go for the rest of the season. They've got a pretty tough non-con schedule coming up, including going to Arizona to play the Wildcats in Tucson. I mean, what do you think? What's the key to beating that team?
Well, I think that Kansas just has to hit shots. Their percentage for field goals was about 37% on Sunday, and that's just when you're playing teams that are in power conferences, better teams than Texas Southern. You gotta shoot better than that, I think.
Absolutely. Well, we'll follow that coming later on in this November. Skylar Rolstad, you can check out all his coverage on Kansan.com. Skylar, once again, thank you for being with us. We'll be back with some news.
Welcome back. I'm Tyler Sotar, and this is your Good Morning KU News Update for Monday, November the 16th. Authorities are still working on the aftermath of a terrorist attack in Paris this weekend. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the coordinated attacks that killed more than 120 people. French President François Hollande called the shootings an act of war and has already retaliated. 2 fighter planes with laser-guided bombs destroyed an Islamic State munitions dump in Syria on Sunday. The rest of the world has directed its sympathy and support for Paris with the tricolor representation. Many of the world's most famous landmarks have been decorated in blue, white, and red colors of the French flag. On Facebook, hundreds of thousands of members have pledged their support by adding the 3 colors to their profile pictures. And next, at home in the U.S., President Obama's national security team is reassuring the American people that a similar attack in the U.S. is not likely. The Director of National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes says that the major difference between Europe and the U.S. is that thousands of Syrian sympathizers have traveled to Syria and to fight before returning to Europe. There are less than 50 of those fighters who have returned to the U.S., and they are being tracked by authorities. Moving on to other news, the KU Student Senate Executive Committee has demanded the resignation of the student body president and vice president. The committee gave Jesse Pringle and Zach George and Chief of Staff Adam Moon a vote of no confidence with a 6-3 vote last week. If the 3 do not resign, an impeachment process could begin immediately. The 3 are being criticized for refusing to stand in solidarity at last week's campus town hall meeting. And the first big game on the men's basketball schedule that everyone has been waiting for is tomorrow night in Chicago. KU will take on Michigan State in the Champions Classic. The Spartans are ranked 24th and clobbered Florida Atlantic 82-55 on Friday night. Tip-off is 9 p.m. and the game can be seen on ESPN. And finally, if you're in need of a little bright news, Sunday afternoon was quite the day in Philadelphia. Citizens in West Philadelphia were shocked to see zebras running around their city. The zebras escaped from the Universal Circus at Mann Center for the Performing Arts. A low-speed chase ensued, and the police soon tweeted that the zebras were unharmed and in custody. And that'll wrap it up for today's news update. Please keep watching, and after the break, Allie will join us for weather update. Welcome back into Good Morning KU, and we are welcoming in Allie Fullerton for our weather report. Allie, what's it looking like outside there on the roof?
Well, good morning, Tyler. Well, actually, if you look behind me, the stadium stairs are there, and we had no stairs this morning as they were too wet to run, so we ended up erging at the boathouse. But it's a chillier start to our Monday morning. Right now it's 52, but it feels like 46, and we're expecting some precipitation later tonight, so starting around 7.
So, I know it's looking a little damp out there. I'm not really sure. I didn't really enjoy the walk here over to the Union. So, can I expect to enjoy a little bit better weather later on this week?
Actually, well, this week, so today it's meant to get to a high of 61, and tomorrow a high of 64, but still with a high precipitation chance tomorrow. But the rest of the week, still for a mild fall so far in November, but it's going to be a bit chillier throughout the week. So, getting down to the 54s and no more highs of 60s later this week.
Well, gotta love cold and rainy as always here in KC and
yes,
Lawrence,
I'm
Kansas.
quite chilly up on the roof right now. I should have brought another jacket.
Of course. Okay, so, and lastly, I also was made aware that Saturday is possible snow chance for first time this winter or fall. Is that
yes,
true?
that is a chance. Right now, it still depends how fast the storm moves over from Colorado coming over the Rockies. But the weather is right now at 45 and about 42 for the weekend. So it is going to be colder. So we could have our chance for the first sprinkle of snow this weekend.
Well, awesome. Well, we thank you for the weather report, Allie. And
No problem.
we'll be back with Good Morning KU. Thanks for coming on, Allie.
Thank you.